Hello travelers, welcome to my travel diary on HT Travel, where we pursue the most vivid stories in the world. Today we explore the dark side of America, the promised land with dreams of freedom and prosperity that echo throughout the world. But behind the bright lights of New York and Silicon Valley, there is another picture, dark and full of injustice. Millions of homeless people, children living in poverty, disease and violence. Shattered neighborhoods, broken dreams quietly exist amidst the prosperity. While the world admires, there are people struggling to hold on to the last bit of hope. What do you think about this situation? Leave a comment, share to understand more about the forgotten America. The American dream, once a shining symbol of opportunity, freedom, and the possibility of a better life, is now crumbling. In a land once hailed as a paradise of equality and progress, more than 30 million people are struggling with hunger, while millions more are struggling to make ends meet despite working hard every day. Rents are skyrocketing, medical costs are mounting, college tuition is leaving young people in debt for life, and all of this is crushing the hopes of an entire generation. People still say that in America, if you work hard, you will succeed. But that is no longer true for most people. The gap between rich and poor is no longer a number, but an unbridgeable chasm. The wealthy neighborhoods of Beverly Hills and Manhattan seem to belong to another planet, completely isolated from the poor, run-down neighborhoods just a few miles away. And in this crisis, no one is truly exempt. Rural whites, inner-city blacks, immigrants who came to America with dreams of a better life, all are facing different forms of inequality. But despite their differences, they have one thing in common: they are living in a system that no longer works for everyone. The divide in America is not just about money. It is a vicious cycle of injustice, of dreams smothered in silence. And every day, more people are waking up to the realization that the American dream is now an illusion. Under the dim street lights of a country known as the most powerful in the world, hundreds of thousands of people are living as if they have been forgotten. They have no home, no proper shelter, only temporary shelters under bridges, on sidewalks, or deep in dark alleys where society often turns a blind eye. Those homeless people, they are not ghosts, but are treated as invisible, as if their existence is an inconvenience that everyone wants to ignore. The life of a homeless person is not simply a lack of a roof. It is a bitter journey of brokenness, of cold loneliness, and despair weighing down on the heart. They live in the middle of a bustling city, but are pushed to the margins like fragments of society. Every day for them is a fight for survival, not just to find food, water, or a place to sleep at night, but also a struggle with humiliation, contempt, and the pain of being forgotten. When winter comes, the cold not only penetrates the skin, but also freezes hope. And in summer, the scorching sun is a cruel reminder that they are living on the edge of the American dream. Temporary tents, tattered tarps, and old cars become makeshift homes, where they try to hold on to what little privacy and dignity they have left. But the most painful thing is not the hunger or the cold, but the feeling of being excluded from the embrace of the community. They used to be diligent workers, dedicated office workers, fathers and mothers with many dreams for their families. But just one incident, an accident, job loss, illness, or addiction is enough to drag them to the bottom of society. They are not soulless numbers in a report. They are people with a past, with pain, and most of all, small wishes for rebirth. They don't need pity, they need understanding, respect, and a chance, just one chance to make a new life. Detroit, once known as the city of rolling wheels, is a living symbol of industrial might and the indomitable American spirit. Once, this was the heart of the global auto industry, where workers from all over the United States flocked to in hopes of changing their lives. But then, the waves of globalization, automation, and the exodus of factories dealt the city a fatal blow. Detroit began to rot bit by bit. Tens of thousands of houses were abandoned, standing alone amid tall grass and broken windows. Streets that once bustled with people, now only had the sound of the wind howling through empty buildings. Children played soccer among the ruins of abandoned schools, places that once echoed with the voices of students, now symbols of a broken education system. Hospitals closed, stores hung, for sale, signs forever, and streams of people quietly left the city with weary eyes, carrying with them their last hope. Detroit has lost more than its wealth, it has lost its soul, the very identity that once made it great. Every street now tells untold stories of abandonment, of broken promises, and of the dire consequences of a city being overlooked in national strategy. Detroit today is a vivid warning that if you don't invest in your community, if you forget about your people, even an empire can collapse in silence. Amid the glittering lights of Los Angeles, where limousines glide down red carpets, movie stars smile for hundreds of cameras, and the Oscars become global cultural icons, there exists a stark truth, just a few blocks away, but as far apart as two worlds. In the place hailed as the capital of dreams, there is a land that many call hell on earth, Skid Row. Not because it is luxurious or famous, but because it is where the fates that life has abandoned are concentrated. Skid Row is a place of fallen angels, people who once had dreams, once had homes, but now huddle in makeshift tents, surrounded by garbage, disease, and violence. In a city that was once a symbol of hope and opportunity, nearly 70,000 homeless people struggle to survive, not just against hunger and cold, but against the coldness of a society that has stopped seeing them as human. The streets of Skid Row are not on the tourist itinerary. Every corner has a forgotten story, every person a once vibrant life that has gone dark. The lights of Hollywood cannot shine on this place. Relief programs, where they exist, have languished for lack of funding, lack of staff, and lack of understanding. When politics interferes with compassion, the result is stagnation and helplessness. Many of the people in Skid Row were veterans, workers, white-collar workers, people who had contributed to society. But one slip, a job loss, a medical bill, an addiction, could knock them off the beaten path of civilized life. And when they fell, there was hardly anyone to help them up. Los Angeles is not just a city of dreams projected on the silver screen, but also a mirror reflecting the pain of broken dreams. Where the lights are brightest, the shadows are deepest. And Skid Row, the land of the forgotten, is a painful reminder that a society is only as strong as its weakest. San Francisco, the pearl of the Pacific, the cradle of the modern technological revolution, the birthplace of great ideas, billion-dollar startups, and the dream of millions of young people around the world. With Silicon Valley right next door, this place was once seen as the center of innovation and opportunity. But behind that halo is a cruel truth that many people deliberately forget. San Francisco is also one of the cities with the highest rate of homelessness in the U.S. Rents here have reached absurd levels. A mediocre apartment can eat up almost the entire income of an ordinary worker. While technology engineers earn hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, right on those same streets, thousands of people huddle in sleeping bags, on cold sidewalks, facing addiction, disease and violence. The gap between rich and poor in San Francisco is no longer a fault line, it's a chasm. On one side are gleaming tech offices with free lunches and laundry facilities, and on the other are tent encampments along once bustling boulevards. Economic growth has never been evenly distributed, and those at the bottom, despite living in the heart of innovation, are left behind by the system. San Francisco, the city of the future, is also the most vivid symbol of the injustice of the present. It's not just big cities like New York and Los Angeles that are seeing the American dream crumble. In seemingly peaceful rural areas, from the deep green mountains of Appalachia to the poor towns of Mississippi, a quiet but powerful tragedy is unfolding. These were once places synonymous with family values, the resilience of blue-collar labor, and a belief in the future. But now, what remains are ghost towns, communities abandoned by the very system they once served. Schools with rusting playgrounds have been locked forever. Local hospitals, once the only places to save hundreds of lives each year, have closed for lack of funds. Adults are unemployed. Young people are leaving. All that's left are old people living alone, among houses that are falling apart with the passage of time. Worse, the opioid epidemic, the nightmare of the 21st century, has consumed countless small communities. Seemingly harmless pills have claimed hundreds of thousands of lives, leaving behind orphaned children, hopeless mothers, and streets filled with the ghosts of the past. Where once there was laughter and the sounds of life, there is now an eerie silence, a painful warning of forgetting, of an America losing itself at its core. Education, touted as the key to a better future, is a stark reflection of America's deep inequalities. In wealthy, upper-class districts, students attend state-of-the-art schools with state-of-the-art labs, vast libraries, and extensive extracurricular programs. From personal laptops to world-class STEAM classrooms, everything is available to nurture potential. But just a few blocks away, or into a less privileged zip code, a world of contrasts emerges. In poor schools, cramped classrooms, broken desks, exhausted teachers, and outdated materials are the norm. There is no technology, no budget for extracurricular activities, and little support to help students overcome challenges outside the classroom, like poverty, violence, or mental illness. The problem is not just physical, but systemic, where geography determines the quality of education. The zip code where you are born becomes a cage that imprisons your future, shaping the level of success you can achieve. When education becomes a privilege rather than a right, social division is no longer a threat, it is a frightening reality. And is a country where dreams are reserved for only a few still a promised land. Women, especially single mothers, women of color, and low-wage workers are the most resilient and vulnerable souls in modern America. They not only shoulder the responsibility of motherhood, but also have to struggle to be the economic pillars in harsh living conditions, full of injustice. Many of them have to work 2 or even 3 jobs at the same time, from fast food to office cleaning, from nursing to anonymous jobs. Every day is a battle, not only to earn enough money to buy food and pay rent, but also to keep their spirits up for themselves and their young children growing up in a society full of instability. There are women who live in cars, in temporary housing, in homeless shelters. But they still get up every morning, hide their despair behind smiles, and keep fighting for their children, for a future they still hope for. Yet society often looks at them harshly, dismissing them as lazy or irresponsible, instead of seeing the system that has long abandoned them. Problems like illness, domestic violence, the cost of raising children, lack of medical care, and education all are cruelly piled on their shoulders. They are invisible in the city lights, mothers who have sacrificed too much. But the dream of equality and freedom that America promises to them is still painfully distant. In America, justice is not for everyone. The criminal justice system, which is supposed to represent fairness, is a reflection of racial and class bias. People of color, especially African American men, are arrested, prosecuted, and convicted at rates many times higher than white people for the same crimes. Sentences lasting decades, even life, are not uncommon, and once they enter that cycle, returning to normal life is almost impossible. In America's crowded prisons, which hold more than 2 million people, many are not dangerous criminals but simply poor. Unable to afford lawyers, unable to pay bail, they are held while awaiting trial, living in terrible conditions, losing their futures. And in society, gun violence continues to smolder like a never-ending nightmare. Children are taught to hide under their desks when there's a shooter, as part of their school curriculum. People can be shot and killed over a minor argument, a mistaken knock on the wrong door, or simply because of the color of their skin. Mass shootings happen all the time, yet gun control remains a deeply divisive topic. America today is divided not only by economics but also by faith. Faith in justice, in the system, in truth, all are shaken. Protests erupt, cities are divided by invisible lines between communities, and the media is increasingly politicized, spreading fear rather than information. The American dream, if it still exists, is surrounded by nightmares of inequality, injustice, and insecurity. And if the truth is not faced, the dream itself will be the first to disappear. America in the eyes of the world is the land of freedom, opportunity, and boundless dreams. But behind the Statue of Liberty and the glittering skyscrapers lies another reality, cold and unfiltered. A version of America that doesn't appear on magazine covers or in Hollywood blockbusters, one that only reveals itself when you dare to look past the glamour and into the truth. There you'll find the crumbling streets of Detroit, where factories that once roared with life now sit as decaying skeletons of the past. You'll see single mothers in Philadelphia, trapped in apartments without hot water, forced to choose between baby formula and rent. You'll meet veterans sleeping beneath highway overpasses in San Francisco, clutching cardboard signs that read, "I served this country," though their eyes no longer hold any hope. Skyrocketing healthcare costs, a deepening housing crisis, systemic racism, and growing inequality are tearing through the fabric of the so-called American dream. In the wealthiest nation on earth, millions still have to decide whether to buy food or medicine. In a country that leads the world in innovation, there are still children doing homework by candlelight because their families can't afford electricity. America's darkness doesn't exist in some far-off corner, it lives right alongside its brilliance. In the same city where CEOs sip fine wine in penthouse suites, people shiver from hunger and cold just blocks away. And the most terrifying part isn't just the inequality, it's the growing indifference sealed behind layers of soundproof glass and locked doors. This is America, not the dream, but the reality. A reality that must be told, not to shame, but to awaken. Because light only means something when we're brave enough to face the shadows. Under the veneer of glamour and bright lights, America is facing a smoldering but profound crisis, a crisis of justice, trust, and social solidarity. The cracks of poverty, racism, and systemic injustice can no longer be hidden. They are visible in every abandoned neighborhood, in the weary eyes of the working poor, and in the silent cries of forgotten communities. But even in the darkest moments, there are glimmers of hope. Resilient mothers, dedicated teachers, and quiet organizations helping the homeless, they are proof that humanity still exists. To save the American dream, we cannot continue to look the other way. It is time to look the other way, act boldly, and put people, not profits, at the center of every decision. What do you think of the current state of American society? Do you believe America can change for the better? Share your thoughts below. Your voice is part of the change.